Welcome back to Wishwell Farms for another beautiful and busy day here on the farm. So today, got a couple different things going on. I got to work on my chemical order for the summer of 2024. So what that entails is just going through my inventory of what I carried over from the previous year or years. And I have a spreadsheet that I'll show you here in a little bit that helps me keep track of all the different categories: insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, biologicals, which I consider the organic stuff, adjuvants like crop oils and surfactants and all that kind of stuff. But before we do that, I've been working on some of these bamboo stakes. I just got started. So here is a tub of stakes. They are just simple 2-foot bamboo stakes that we take and put in the cubes. Just give them a little shove down there like that. And it's easy to go too far, so they only need to be in there like 1 inch to 2 inches. And we can only do the middle rows and then get them clipped before we move on to the outside rows. Otherwise, you got to reach up and over the stakes that would be right here if we did them all to get a clip on, and it's just more difficult and you're bumping these all the time. So we'll just do the 2 inside rows so we can get to it from both sides, get them clipped, and then we'll work on the outside rows. So the clips we use to attach the plants to the bamboo stakes are called ring clips. You can see it's just a simple little clip. You put your fingers on there, and if you squeeze it, it opens up, and then it closes back down around the plant and the bamboo stake. So I'm not going to actually be doing them today because I want them to be 2 to 3 inches taller before I do it, because the plants will be every bit as high as these bamboo stakes before I plant them in the big greenhouse in the Dutch buckets. So as you can see, they're only like 8 inches tall, and they got another foot to go. But they'll be there in less than 2 weeks, believe it or not. Probably 10 days, they will be as tall as these bamboo stakes. So take the ring clip, and I just come in here at the highest possible point of the plant, which is right there around that upper growing point, and then just put it around the bamboo stake and let go. And that's done. See how simple that is? And the positioning of that clip is pretty important, because if it's down here, that would be all right if it was right there, 1 branch lower. But if it was put right down here, it's just going to slide down to here and do no good whatsoever. So we put it at the very highest point possible. And better yet, I would prefer to do it when they're about this high, almost halfway up the stake. That's why I'm not doing them today. I'm just getting a start on placing the bamboo stakes. We'll do the ring clips here in about 3 or 4 days, probably over the weekend. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, the reason we have to do this is because greenhouse tomatoes are a lot more tender and sensitive to falling over. They're just not as thick and stout as a late spring or early summer grown field or garden tomato. Those never need staked until they're like, knee high or whatever out in the field. Then we'll do a string trellis with stakes. Some gardeners will use like a tomato cage. But because of the shorter days and the lack of sunlight when you're growing and starting hydroponic or greenhouse tomatoes, they just don't get the thickness and the strength that a tomato started later in the season would have with longer days and more sunlight. So a stiff wind or bumping them with the water wand while I'm watering them can knock them over, especially when I'm transferring them out of this greenhouse in a little wagon or a cart to the main greenhouse, 150 feet away. A light breeze or just the bouncing of the wagon, they'll start flopping over. And the last thing I want to do is have to worry about dropping strings from the trellis that moment that I place them in the Dutch buckets. I want them to be able to sit there in the Dutch buckets for a couple days or a week before I have to drop the strings and actually start clipping them to the string trellis. So that's the main reason we have to do this. It's kind of a tedious task. It just takes a couple hours. Just one of those things that has to be done. So let's get to putting the rest of these bamboo stakes in, just in the center rows, and then we'll head out to my chemical room down the road at the other farm and do some inventory on my leftover chemicals and see what all I need to order for 2024. something else I failed to mention about these bamboo stakes is, since I am right-handed and everybody in my family is right-handed, I want to put the stake on the left side of the plant. That way when we go down to put our clip on, that plant is on the right side, and we push the plant and the clip right into the stake. It makes the job a lot quicker and easier if the stake placement is in the proper place on the cube. So I'm kind of doing it right beside it on the left side of the plant. Now this row I'm doing right now, I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to do this next row. And the reason being is the same reason I explained over here, why I'm only doing the middle section and not this section. It's just harder to reach this row. So if there was a stake right here, you know, on this side, for me to be able to clip those, I'd have to finagle my hand through the bamboo stakes to get to it, or reach up and over, and it's just a big pain in the butt. So we'll do one row at a time, clip it, and then we'll come back through and put the second row of stakes in and clip those. Just like over here. I'm gonna clip this side, and then come over here and clip this side, and then we'll do another row of stakes right here and right here and get those clipped before putting the very outside row of stakes on. All right, we just got this one little section left here, and then we're going to head over to the chemical room to do a chemical inventory for 2024. Just finish up these 20 plants real quick here. It is getting hot in here, holy moly. My thermostat is set on 86. It's got to be 80 degrees in here. Whew. If you're wondering, we remove these once they've been put into the Beto bucket. We pull the strings down and have put 2 clips on them, and they're about 2.5 feet tall. We'll come through and we'll remove all the bamboo stakes and just keep reusing them year after year. While we're heading down the road to the other farm, our main farm, where our grain farm is, where our dairy used to be, it's just a half mile down the road. I thought I'd talk about the chemicals again real quick before we start doing the inventory. As a vegetable farmer, there has been a huge push over the last 10 years to be less dependent on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. So pesticides kind of encompasses all chemicals, like insecticides for bugs, fungicides for diseases, and herbicides for weeds. Those are pesticides or chemicals. So we have made great strides at Wishwell Farms Produce to be pesticide free. I can't call ourselves organic because you have to be certified to be considered organic. I will never go through that certification for several reasons. One, it's a big headache, a lot of red tape to jump through, a lot of paperwork. It's very time consuming. And it's a very strict process to become certified organic. We have been doing this long enough, 25 years now, and almost, over 20 years at farmers markets around Columbus, that our clientele, our customers, the people who buy and eat our produce, trust us and know us well enough that they know how our food has been produced. They know what has been sprayed on it or not been sprayed on it, and they trust how we grow our produce. And if we label some of our products chemical or pesticide free, that is okay, because they are, but not all of our stuff is. So it's mainly just our greenhouse tomatoes, and the rest of our field crops, like that are grown on raised beds, the high value crops like field tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, zucchini, cantaloupe, watermelon, all that stuff. We spray those, we still spray a herbicide to control the weeds. So that is the main reason I will never try to be a certified organic farm. I don't have all the tillage equipment required to try to be chemical free, not reliant on herbicides. I would love to be, but it's just with where we're located and the type of soils we have, in my experience, it's very, very difficult. And it's not something I am willing to go through. If the next generation wants to try to tackle that, good for them. I'm doing the best I can with being somewhat chemical free. So our greenhouse tomatoes are 100% organically grown, except for the fertilizers. We're still using some water soluble, like regular synthetic fertilizers. They're not able to be organically labeled fertilizers. So that's the main reason we can't be called organic in our greenhouses. So we just label them pesticide free. Now, crops like field corn or sweet corn, pumpkins, green beans, those are grown 100% conventionally. But the items that are grown on raised beds that are actually being eaten straight off the plant, like a broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, field tomatoes, things like that, we spray those with insecticides and fungicides that are labeled for organic use, but they still have a herbicide put on the soil before they're planted. Herbicides are not actually sprayed on the vegetables themselves, just on the soil to help keep the weed pressure down throughout the season. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have an operation of crops that were harvestable. It'd be impossible, at least for us. I know it can be done, but like I said, it's not something I want to try to tackle and buy the equipment that's needed to control all these weeds. So, all right, we're here at the old dairy. That's enough talk about that. I'm going to show you inside the old milk house from pre-1963. So we're currently at the dairy, the original dairy of Wishwell Farms that was built in the teens, early 20s, I'm guessing. And this was the original dairy farm that started with 2 or 3 cows and then increased to, I don't know, several dozen maybe. And then in 1963, the electrified farm of 1963 was built right there. It was state of the art for its time. And we've milked up to 100, 110 Holstein, registered Holsteins over there. And we sold the dairy cows and retired from the dairy farming business in 2001. I was a 4th generation dairy farmer. We slowly transitioned into full-time vegetable production, and we still grain farm about 1,200 acres of corn and soybeans here on this farm here. So this is the old dairy milk house where I keep my chemicals. I have not been in here since last fall. I'm almost scared to look in here. It's one of these days that ceiling is gonna collapse. There's like raccoons living up there or something. So this is the old original dairy milk house. Not very big, but it works perfect for me for storing all of my chemicals and liquid fertilizers for spraying on my vegetable crops. So while I was talking about some of the history of our farm and this old dairy milk house, it got me thinking. I've been kicking around the idea of doing a farm history video for a couple years now. So if you guys are interested in hearing the story of our farm history, let me know down in the comments below. Sounds like a fun video to do. I would just sit down and tell you all about it. And yeah, I think that'd be a fun one. Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing about the history of Wishwell Farms. All right, here's my spreadsheet that I use, and it's very, very simple. And the list gets smaller and smaller every year because I'm learning to farm with less chemicals. This is last year's chemical order, and I just print it off again and do an inventory for 2024. So I got it divided up into insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, like crop oils and surfactants and liquid fertilizers here, and then some organic biopesticides down here. As you can see, the herbicide list is the biggest, but it's still only, like 8 items. The insecticide list is probably one of the smaller lists because, most of our insecticides are biologicals, the organic stuff. But we still have to have permethrin to pyrethroids to spray on sweet corn and pumpkins and things like that. And I always keep some fluoromite miticide on hand because if spider mites get out of control, there's almost nothing that can stop them. So I always have some of that. And the Lorsban is just, they don't really make Lorsban anymore. It's got a generic name or a different name, Pilot, Nufos, or Aztec. I think it was Aztec last year. That's just a granular or a dry flowable, whatever, that I put in my corn planter for a couple of the early plantings of sweet corn to prevent cutworms and things like that, grubs underground that could harm the sweet corn seed while it's sitting there in the cold soils waiting to germinate. As you can see, it is a disastrous mess. There's raccoons up here man, about ready to cave this ceiling in, and the junk's falling all over my chemical labels. So this is one of my chemical books, applicator records, I guess is what you'd call it. So, you know, I got multiple years of everything that I've sprayed. I put the date, the amount of what I'm spraying, and where I'm spraying. So I have a record of everything that I've ever sprayed on our farm. So, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that. So now what I'm going to do is just go through here and look at all my jugs. So this is kind of all my herbicides I keep right here. Crop oils and surfactants over there. All my organic stuff kind of gets piled right here, and along with some fungicides, and then more organic items up here, and some other liquid herbicides. And it's kind of a mess right now. We'll get her all cleaned up, and these are liquid fertilizers over here. So I want to organize some of this and do some inventory and see what we got left. But I just wanted to show you guys where I keep everything and kind of how I break it all down to help me figure out what I need to purchase for each growing season. All right, this is where we're going to end things today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it one of these. And we will see you again real soon down on the farm.